Welcome to this gathering of the Manatee Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where for 60 years diversity of faith, race, ethnicity, and sexual and gender identity have been honored by people of courage and vision. We are a covenanted community bound together by our belief in freedom of worship, love, and respect. If you are visiting with us this morning, we welcome you as our guests and extend an invitation to join us. Actually, for today, it will be for lunch. We have a lunch afterwards for our annual meeting, but also conversations after the service. There will be coffee served as well. And after our service today, as I began to say, we are having our annual meeting, and all are welcome to attend. Members will be voting on a variety of items, and lunch will be served. Next Friday, we are having a Share a Dish event. We will be welcoming and celebrating our new members who have joined us over the past year. On Saturday at 10 a.m., I will be leading a discussion on the controversial UU World article after the LGNB. There is a sign up in the social hall. Please include your email address so that I may send you some reading materials in advance. And in your order of service on the blue page, there were some announcements, other announcements, but there's one correction. The men's group will meet the third Wednesday, that's the 17th this month at 2 p.m. instead of what is printed in the bulletin. So the men's group will be meeting on the 17th, the third Wednesday. And now I invite our membership committee to come forward, and also Carolyn and Bill Dennison, Lisa Moskin, and Shirley Label to come forward. Yes, please. Lisa's not here today. So, it's a great bunch of people up here. Carol and Bill Dennison were members of the EU congregation in Sarasota until February 24th, when they decided to make Manatee their UU home. Lisa Moskin, who's not here today, began attending our fellowship 2 years ago. She signed the membership book on the 17th of March. Shirley Label was a member of the Tri-County Unitarian Universalist in Summerfield, Florida for 12 years until moving to Bradenton and joining our congregation on March 17th. Will the congregation please rise in body or spirit and join together in reading the welcome statement found in your order of service. As we read, Carol Bartz will light the candle celebrating the membership of Carolyn, Bill, Lisa, and Shirley. In the bonds of community, we unite to cultivate a spirit of love and caring for one another, to promote spiritual growth and ethical commitment, to minister to each other's needs and to those of humanity, and to celebrate the sacred moments of life's passages. We welcome you as an equal member of this congregation, of this faith, and of our shared spiritual journey. Welcome. So Sally is going to be giving you a rose, but I'm going to give you a welcome packet of some reading materials for I'm assuming you can share.
Yeah, definitely.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You may return to your seats and you may sit down.
Okay.
And now our prayer. I'm going to ask John to come and light the chalice today. Randy is not here this morning. Please join in reading our chalice lighting words found in our order of service. May the light of this chalice give light and warmth to our community when we are joyful and when we despair, and we may feel the warmth spread from our circle to wider and wider circles until all know they belong to the one circle of life. Our opening words this morning is a song, it's lyrics of a song by Buffy St. Marie and Leonard Cohen entitled God is Alive, Magic is Afoot. I have abridged the words. God is alive, magic is afoot. God is alive, magic is afoot. God is afoot, magic is alive. Alive is afoot, magic never died. Though laws were carved in marble, they could not shelter men. Though altars built in parliament, they could not order men. Police arrested magic, and magic went with them, for magic loves the hungry. But magic would not tarry, it moves from arm to arm. It would not stay with them, magic is afoot. It cannot come to harm, it rests in an empty palm. It sporns in an empty mind, but magic is no instrument. Magic is the end. This I mean to whisper to my mind. This I mean to laugh within my mind. This I mean my mind to serve, till service is but magic. Moving through the world and mind itself is magic. Coursing through the flesh, and flesh itself is magic. Dancing on a clock, and time itself, the magic length of God. Our opening hymn this morning is number 1020 in our Teal hymn book, Wo Ya Ya. Please rise in body or spirit. Yes, please.
All right, everyone, just really quickly, just so no one's confused about what you're going to hear. Once we begin, there is a moment in the third and fourth page where the choir splits off from all of you. If you're looking for your part, listen to the piano, but the choir is going to be responding to you at times, okay? Love it. All right.
And on the last two pages, there are lots of repeats.
Oh yes, there are repeats. Don't worry, we'll catch them. We'll be fine. All right. If you can read sheet music. If you can read sheet music, give us a hand. All right.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we get there, heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will.
It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will.
Wonderful. Our responsive reading this morning is in 3 parts. We're doing lots of things today. 3 parts. So I will lead off in your order of service. It says minister left side, right side. This is my left side. So it's stage left, your right. Stage right. Okay? So I will begin. Left side will then respond. Right side will then respond back and forth, and then I will come in again, and we go back. Follow along as we go. Okay? How does one address a mystery? But what shall I say? And at the end, say, Amen. And now the choir will sing.
From
Back in February, I offered to auction off a sermon topic. Ed Kobe purchased this offering and asked me to speak on the phenomenon that was Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce was a psychic from the first half of the 20th century. He claimed he would go into a sleep-like trance and connect with what he called the Akashic record, a sort of universal consciousness that connects everything. He was called the sleeping prophet because of this trance state he was in when he spoke his future predictions and prognoses of illness and recovery. He is the originator, or one of the originators, of the belief that California was going to fall into the ocean in the mid-20th century. He also predicted that the fabled city of Atlantis would be found, an Atlantan death ray would be discovered in 1958, and texts from Atlantis would be found in 3 locations. None of his predictions came true, not one. California did not fall into the ocean. New York City was not obliterated by a cataclysm event. His predictions about the Lindbergh kidnapping were false. His predictions about the Great Depression were false. There are, however, hundreds of anecdotal testimonies of people claiming to be cured of many illnesses. He was also keen on past life regression. The notion that people have lived multiple lives prior to the current one. He would make statements about these past lives and connected them to the current troubles the individual was living. There was no substantive means to prove these claims. So it would seem that Cayce was a creative hoaxer that tapped into people's strong desire for hope when hope was hard to find. So this is my take on Edgar Cayce. But what about the notion of reincarnation, ghosts, poltergeists, extrasensory perception, universal consciousness, clairvoyance, UFOs, and other phenomena? Are these real or even possible? Do they have a place in Unitarian Universalism's uber-rational theology? It's a fair question. It falls under our 4th principle for a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And it comes with cautionary words in our sources warning us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Unitarian Universalists, by and large, have an aversion to such phenomenon, and with good reason. Unitarian Universalists were heavily influenced by the spiritualist movement of the 19th century. You may recall those B movies where a group of folks would gather around a table and ask the spirits to rap on the tables or to move objects as a sign of their presence. The belief that one could communicate with the dead deeply affected our ancestors' quest for truth and meaning. This movement began early in the 19th century and peaked after the Civil War. It is understandable that a grieving nation of so many lost in that war might turn to spiritualism to seek comfort for and reassurances that their fallen soldiers are at peace. Many saw spiritualism as an outcome of the transcendentalist movement with its focus on experiencing the sacred and the mystical in daily life. Universalists saw it as a confirmation that the dead did indeed go to heaven. Many of our famed preachers either expressed interest in or practiced spiritualism. Unitarian author Charles Dickens, ministers William Henry Channing and Thomas Starr King were keenly connected to spiritualism. Theodore Parker, not a spiritualist himself, declared spiritualists as being the ones with a new fire in the hearth. Towards the end of the 19th century, Christian Scientists and other faith groups arose to compete with the spiritualists in the Unitarian and Universalist congregations. There was also an increase in scientific study and findings to discredit the dubious claims of spiritualism. This led to Unitarian and Universalists to move away from spiritualism and to embrace a more rational approach to religious thought. Humanism of the early 20th century filled the void created by spiritualism's departure from Unitarianism. Many were embarrassed in being duped by this movement, and many congregations conveniently leave out this part of their history, though there is at least one UU congregation in Southold, New York, that is upfront with their history in the spiritualist movement. There was a resurgence in the mid to late 20th century in our denomination with the rise of the New Age movement. There were many congregations that took up studying the Course in Miracles. One of the Course's most popular teachers is Marianne Williamson, a candidate for the 2020 presidential election. And there were study groups on the Conversations with God books by Neil Donald Walsh. And some of you may have heard of the law of attraction taught by Abraham Hicks, a channeled entity through Esther Hicks. What these have most in common with Edgar Cayce is the notion of a universal consciousness that can be tapped into to improve the quality of our lives. They blend affirmations with an inner Gnosticism, but they tend not to go the route of diagnosing illnesses or predicting the future course of events. They have been accused of promoting magical thinking, that those aligned with emotions create our reality, that thoughts aligned with emotions create our reality. The difficulty comes in when one's desired reality does not manifest, and then blaming the person for not thinking the right thoughts, or believing the right way, or not saying the right affirmations, or using the right tapping process coupled with affirmations. What Ed did not know when he asked me to speak on this topic is that this is a topic that I have an extreme interest in. I have followed Marianne Williamson and studied the Conversations with God books and attended workshops with Abraham Hicks. If you find some old tapes from the early 2000s, you may even hear me asking questions to Abraham. I have sifted through these in my own personal search for truth and meaning. You see, my life from its very beginning has been surrounded by these very phenomena. I cannot explain them, and the labels we give them seem inadequate. But for me, they point to something further than my reason can take me, and has left me with a sense of awe and wonder at the mystery of life. So here is my story. I don't have any explanation for what I'm about to share with you. These are my experiences. As I stated, I no longer label them because those labels come with the baggage of hucksters like Edgar Cayce, Gene Dixon, and John Edward. They simply are what they are. Perhaps someday in the future there will be a rational scientific explanation for these, but for now they remain in the realm of woo-woo. My middle sister is about 5 years older than me. A few months after her 4th birthday, she announced to her Sunday school teacher that she was going to have a baby brother. The teacher congratulated my mother on her pregnancy. My mom told her she was not pregnant, nor intending to be. About a month later, my mom was pregnant. Several months after that, my aunt became pregnant. She had lost several pregnancies and so asked my sister if she was going to give birth to a girl or a boy. My sister, remember she was not quite 5, told her not this year, but next time she will have a baby girl. My aunt miscarried a few months later, and a year later gave birth to my cousin Debbie. How did she know? No idea. Coincidence? Perhaps. I had a dream one night that I was a member of an indigenous tribe hunting in the woods near a roaring river. There were shouts, and I heard a young person from an enemy tribe had fallen into the river. He was struggling. I dove in to save the individual. Because we were of warring factions, he could not pay me back, but promised he would find a way to honor his debt to me. The dream stayed with me all day. I was living in Chicago at the time, and every summer there would be these neighborhood block parties where they would close down the street for vendors. That day, I went to this block party, and there was a psychic booth. And I went in, and the person offered to tell me about my guardian angel. He began to tell me this story that in a previous life there was an indigenous boy who had fallen into a river that I saved. And because we were of warring factions, he could not help me in that lifetime. He was my guardian angel in this lifetime. He has kept me safe from harmful events. I remember the shock on my face when he told me that dream that I had the night before. Does this mean I was reincarnated? I don't know. I don't know how the person could be so accurate in telling me the dream I had the night before. Speaking of dreams, many years ago I had a series of dreams of preparing for a funeral. These were disturbing dreams to me. They were palpable. Again, the kind of dreams that haunt you throughout the day. I did not know whose funeral. I am numb and simply going through the motions. The church was not familiar to me. I did not know the minister. I did not know the funeral home. I could not find the name on the bulletin. But each day I awake having these dreams of preparation. My father died a week after these dreams, and planning the funeral with the minister fell to me. I did not recognize the church because the minister's office was in a new wing of the church. The minister was not the minister from my youth. And when I am reviewing the bulletin, I cannot find my father's name through my tears. In essence, the dreams were premonitions of what was coming. Another time, I had a dream of my grand-aunt Margaret. I had not seen her in several years after she moved to be closer to her children halfway across the country. In the dream, she is telling me how much she enjoyed my visits when she lived closer. She was going away and wished me a good life. I told my mom this dream. I did not have my cousin's phone number to call to inquire after her. A few weeks later, my mom receives a letter from one of my aunt's children informing us that she had died, and the date of her death was the exact date of my dream. I have had many dreams that could be interpreted as messages from people who have died. The most poignant was that of my father, after my father had died. We had not been the closest of relationships. I was not out of the closet when he died. In this one dream, I am driving, and my father was in the car with me. We began arguing. Nothing that I am doing is to my father's liking. I slam on the brakes and get out of the car. I'm still yelling at him, and nothing I do will ever make him proud, and that he must be ashamed to have a gay son. My father looks at me and very quietly says, I am always proud of who you are. Always. Now, I don't know if that was my father speaking to me from beyond the grave or not, but it was the most healing and redemptively loving conversation I have ever had with him. When I was serving the congregations in Mississippi, I lived in 2 different locations. I rented a house in Jackson, Mississippi, and a house in Ellisville, Mississippi. They were about 90 minutes apart. I lived in each house for 2 weeks at a time. The house in Ellisville was an old Southern house known as a dog trot house. When it was first built, it was in 3 sections. Essentially, it was 2 buildings with a 10-foot wide middle section that was open air, covered with a roof that connected the 2 houses. In later years, the middle section was filled in to make a very large room that went to the back of the house. The house was fully furnished with furnishings of the previous owner of the house, the grandmother of my landlord. When I walked into the house, I would feel a tug on my hair. It was such a hard tug that my head would jerk back. I would be sitting in the living room table and see items move across the end table. And when I slept in the back bedroom, I would hear a woman's voice call out my name. I chose a different bedroom to sleep in. At this time, I began dating someone in Tennessee. And during one of our phone conversations, he informs me that he is a medium. He speaks with dead people. He says over the phone, the woman who lived there is still in the house. He tells me her name, which I knew to be correct. He tells me that she is pleased that I am living there, enjoys my company, and misses me when I leave. He said the hair tugs was her way of letting me know that. Now, I had not told him any of this because who can speak about these things without being thought of as, well, you know. So I began a ritual of saying hello when I entered the house and goodbye when I leave the house for 2 weeks. The hair tug ceased. Items moving on the table stopped. I guess acknowledging her presence was good enough for her. This was not my first experience with what people might call ghosts. I have had other experiences, one at a Unitarian congregation where there were apparitions, witnessed by others present. So what do I do with all these bizarre experiences as a Unitarian Universalist? They do not fit our humanist, science-based, rational faith. But these are my experiences. I try not to place them in categories because I believe there must be some rational explanation that has yet to be discovered. When I was a born-again Christian, I was told these were demonic experiences that required the blood of Jesus to protect me. I didn't feel threatened by these events, so I didn't accept that explanation. When I was into New Age religions, I was told these matched my aura of receptivity and indicated I was aligned with the universe. I wasn't sure that was true either. And now that I am Unitarian Universalist, I am told it is best to be skeptical of them. I am skeptical of what causes them to occur. I am not skeptical of their presence in my life. I just noticed there is a theme running through my mysterious experiences. Perhaps you have been quicker to notice than I. But each experience is an expression of the spirit of love. My sister's announcement of my birth and my cousin's birth is love. My dream about my guardian angel, how my guardian angel came to be, is love. My dream of my grand aunt's goodbye, my father's words to me, is love. The dreams about my father's funeral is about love. My ghost experiences in Ellisville is about love. Love comes in many forms, some in unexpected and paranormal ways. Iris Dement has a song that talks about what people believe regarding the afterlife. She ends the chorus with, "I think I'll just let the mystery be." And that, my friends, is what I have decided to do with these events that I cannot rationally explain, that seem like supernatural phenomenon. I experience them and ponder them close in the recesses of my heart. Should I be reincarnated into another life, perhaps that person will have the scientific quantum physics understanding of these experiences. But until then, I will be satisfied with life as a riddle and a mystery. So mote it be. And now I invite the choir to sing. We come to a time for prayers of the community, and I have several that were handed to me this morning. Lois Stilley sends her love to us all, especially the choir. She moved in February and no longer has a car. She hopes to feel up to returning to the church soon. Her phone number is the same, and if anyone wants to call her, please do. She would welcome hearing from all of us. Carol Bartz's husband, Daryl, has been at Muffet Hospital since Wednesday for induction chemotherapy treatments for his newly diagnosed leukemia. He will remain at Muffet Hospital for the next 3 weeks and then will hopefully be home, but with virtually no immune system. The next step will be a stem cell transplant. New member Lisa Moskin asked for thoughts and prayers for her mother who is in hospital. There are many who aren't able to be with us and might enjoy a note in the mail, a phone call, a visit. If you notice someone who is not here today, please make a point to reach out to them this week. Let them know we are thinking of them and that we care about them. And there are many, not just Lois, but many, who are going through transitions in their life, move into assisted living, moving closer to be with family, grieving the loss of loved ones, health concerns that require adjustments to activities. Please offer a listening ear and other forms of support to our friends and members who are traveling these roads of change. And let us hold these joys and sorrows and those that have not yet found expression in our hearts in a time of silence. May our hearts be inspired to offer support to one another. Blessed be and amen. We say in our church that the offering is a sacrament of the free church. What we mean by that is that we believe it is a blessing to be able to govern and support our religious community ourselves, to make possible by our generosity everything we dream of, and do to live out our shared values. Every week, we lift up the spiritual values of generosity by taking an offering for the ministries of this fellowship. Our plate then, as it is passed among us, becomes filled with the evidence of that generosity. It is our harvest, gathered in every week for what most nourishes us. The ushers will now come among you to receive the gifts of the congregation. The morning offering is most gratefully received. Our closing hymn this morning is number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Please rise in body or spirit. However you experience this journey called life, say yes to it. Embrace it as it is. Don't worry if you do not understand it. If it pushes you to see the world differently, even for that brief moment, accept it as it comes. Say yes to love in whatever form it appears. Love is a phenomenon too. Go in peace.
Extinguish the chalice. Extinguish the chalice.
And well, let's read the extinguishing chalice words. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.